I'm really sorry for those that were on there, but for some reason I've just been cut off again. Hopefully you're joining me back. Please say hello if you're back on. Welcome back, Debbie. Hopefully Andrew's coming back in. There's still a little bit to go on this one. I'm not going to go through all of it because there are pages and pages of it. I'll finish some off tomorrow. Just give Angela a couple of minutes. I don't come out and message her because I might just lose it. Let me see, put a comment in. Good. Hello, Angela. Sorry about that. Okay. So we've gone in number one on jet. We began to advance, and because of the pressure of the water coming from the hose and the greasy tiles of the galley, every time we let go of the ranges, we were sliding all over the place. My mate and I were in fits of laughter, quite strange considering the circumstances. We had to lug the hoses between our legs, or tuck the hoses between our legs, and pull ourselves through the galley the best we could. The smoke was really thick, so we had to keep together, or we would quickly lose sight of each other. We were giggling the whole way through like little school kids. As we advanced, I kicked something, which felt like a body. The chief hadn't told us anyone was inside, but we had to check it out. I told my mate, and we aimed our hoses to shield us from the heat, and we both crouched down together. What I had kicked was actually a big bag of potatoes. We were off again, laughing like idiots. It was obvious that any fire in the gallery had been extinguished, so we made our way back down the passageway. The second team was still fighting the fire in the PO's mess, so we assisted by boundary cooling the adjoining compartments the best we could. We had put an awful lot of water in the ship, but luckily we had got a hold of any remaining fires. The PO's mess fire was extinguished, and we all made our way back out to the stern. The ship was listing even more heavily now, but luckily another ship had been alongside whilst we were inside and dropped off some of their breathing apparatus. The Plymouth damage control teams were back in action and immediately set about removing the water from below decks. They got a generator started running and started the pumps. Things were quickly under control, and we were told we'd be returning to our ship by landing craft, as all the helicopters were tasked with more important operations. We had little time to reflect on what we had done, and it seemed quite funny that we could find something amusing about being in such a dangerous situation. I suppose it's the brain's way of convincing you that training rules when really you should be dropping everything and going home to somewhere safe. The ship was a mess. The ammunition had all been thrown overboard, but there was a real mess to clean up. The mortar room was a write-off. The mortar tubes were all bent. The hole in the side where the bomb had entered had taken a section of a life ring with it. It now looked like a half-eaten donut. The funnel had a neat entry hole and a massive exit hole. It looked like it does on the comical movie portrayals. There was a small amount of smoke coming from the hole in the flight deck where the bomb had entered the PO's mess. The Plymouth's crew was watching this area in case the fire flared up again. There were bits of metal strewn all over the deck, and after picking up a piece I realised it was actually shrapnel from the bombs which had hit the ship. I was amazed how sharp those edges were and could see how easy it was for someone to be killed by such a piece of metal, flying at God knows what speed. I went up to see if my mate was still on board, but I'd been told that he had been flown off. I couldn't believe what time it was and how long we had spent on board. We had been on there for hours, but it seemed as if we had just arrived. Our lift arrived and the time was now around 4:30 in the afternoon. We loaded our equipment aboard and left the ship. The crew was still very busy and paid little attention to us leaving. I was glad to see that the list was disappearing and the crew now had control of the situation. We had to pass some equipment over to the frigate, which dropped it off earlier, and after dropping a set of breathing apparatus overboard, we were finally on our way back to the ship. The fun wasn't over, however. On the way back to the ship, we heard these planes come screaming in from our stern. Guns were firing in all directions and we could see missiles and tracer bullets coming from all directions. The Marine on the front of the landing craft we were on began firing his general purpose machine gun, and it was the first time I really felt exposed. One half of me said, "Get down," and the other half was fascinated with what I was seeing. No quicker had the planes arrived than they were gone again. We arrived back on board and offloaded our equipment. We were not normally allowed to shower during daylight hours, but I'm afraid we didn't take any notice during this occasion. I'd actually pissed myself on a few occasions, as we were soaked to the skin anyway. It was actually a welcome break from the cold. After cleaning ourselves up, we went up to the galley to get some much needed food. The ship's company had already eaten, so we were the only people in the canteen eating. A broadcast came over the tannoy that we were about to get some of the survivors of the Sir Galahad on board for treatment. This was the first we had heard of the attacks on Fitzroy Cove. The chefs told us that a major attack on the ships there had caused an awful lot of deaths. It was about that time when a procession of what can be best described as walking zombies began to walk through the canteen to the sick bay. I first thought their anti-flash gloves were traipsed along the ground off their hand, but I realised it was actually skin. When the attack occurred, most of them had their sleeves rolled up, and the resulting burns were what they were coming to get treated. After the day's events, this somehow didn't have the effect on me I would have expected. In normal conditions, I'd have expected to be horrified, whereas all I could think about was getting some food into me. These were truly strange times. Just before we finished our food, the captain came over the broadcast with a recap of the day's events, and he congratulated our team for our efforts, and he actually mentioned my name, as I was the youngest member of the team, which was nice. Our boss was actually awarded a mention dispatches for leading our team. I had no watch that night, and I slept like a baby. Yet another young 18-year-old with another 18, I think the other guy was just 19, Archie, who he was in that firefighting team with. Just two young boys straight out of training. They both joined up same day as me, having to go into pitch black, and you've never seen the thick smoke of a fire in a warship. Two young lads having to find their way through to fight fires. Nobody behind them, nobody in front of them, just them two. Having to go and do what they did. And a couple of things here. We're going to go on the Galahad and Tristram. I was playing. It was quite harrowing then. Last year, or through earlier this year, I was playing five-a-side football with a group of lads from the local pub, and one of the younger lads came up to me because I was wearing I'm a hero t-shirt. I was in the Falklands thing. he came up to me and said, my dad was in the Falklands as well. He was on HMS Plymouth. And he got injured when the ship got hit. And he had a big piece of porthole sticking out of his head. Guess what? That was Colin's mate. I just couldn't believe it. Colin had written about that. And this guy was telling me that was his dad. So I gave him a copy of the book for him to take. So I don't know whether Colin and his dad have been in contact, but yeah, that was really strange. And then on Saturday night, we're going to talk. The next chapter is HMS Galahad, and that's also harrowing. But my words, of course, controversy, but they're staying as they are. I was talking to a young lady, and she was telling me her dad was on the Galahad. We didn't really get a lot of time to talk about it, but she told me that he had told us some of the things that he had seen and how difficult it was. He was actually with the parachute regiment on there. And we started talking, so hopefully I can talk to her some more about it. That's if she wants to. But yeah, so for him to be on the Galahad, just as we're coming to that section in the book. Slightly longer today, but I think we needed to give Trevor's account some justification as well as Colin's. Now, both of those guys, we joined the Navy on June the 2nd, 1980. Colin and I went to Chatham together, as did Jack Warner. He was there at Chatham with us. I can't remember Jack, but he was at Chatham with us. And yeah, it's a small world. The Navy is a small world. And we all move in small circles, but to discover two people down here whose parents were involved, or whose fathers were involved, one so detailed as Colin described in his diary entry in my book, and the young lady that I was talking to on Saturday evening, where I'm going to talk about the next stage of it. So be prepared. Tuesday evening, it's going to be a difficult read for everyone. Okay, Angela, Debbie, thank you for being in. I can't see anybody else in. I'm glad I wasn't firefighting, but just imagine being in total darkness, knowing there's a big fire in front of you somewhere. So, yeah, it was Debbie. So I will get in contact with her. We have connected online. I will talk to her some more. Okay, so there we have it. Small world. Okay, well, thank you very much, you two, for being in. Be interested to see how many others have been listening to this one. And it'd be interesting. I am going to speak in depth on Galahad, Sir Galahad and Sir Tristram. What happened, some of the history behind it, which is very controversial. But this diary is my diary. It's what I knew and what I'd written. And also Captain Jeremy Larkin, or Rear Admiral Larkin as he is now, contributed to it, as did Lieutenant Commander Prime, who retired as a commander. He was our navigator. And a couple of friends. And there's another leading radio operator has given me his account of finding Foxtrot 4. And you'll realise the significance of that when I get to it. So, thank you. Just preparing you for tomorrow. For Tuesday. I'm not going to be on tomorrow. Depends what time we're out eating. But I will catch up with you very soon. Thank you very much for your support. Good night all.